Hello, everyone. I am Laura, and we're going to go ahead and get started on our workshop today with video interviewing with GM. So we will get some introductions out of the way. As I mentioned, my name is Laura. I am a career consultant with the School of Engineering and Computer Science. And just a brief background on me before I came to Oakland, I was a recruiter in HR and university relations and talent acquisition in the auto industry. So I looked at lots and lots of resumes and interviewed lots and lots of people. So I'm excited to share that information with you. And Kathy, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kathy Lavinsberger. I see some familiar faces here. I'm also on the SECS Career Services team. And I've been here in the School of Engineering and Computer Science for several years. Before that, I worked in industry as a tech recruiting manager for a large IT and engineering company.
And Kelly in the back.
Hi, everybody. I'm also on the career services team. I'm a career consultant. And there's several people who have been at a couple of our GM events. You've got some GM fans in this room here. So glad to see everybody here.
I didn't bring a Hummer or C8 with me. Sorry, guys, if that's what you're looking for.
Maybe next time.
Yeah.
And speaking of GM, we'll introduce our guest of honor, Gary. And he has a really interesting background with experience at Oakland and at GM. So I asked him to share quite a bit of his story with you because I think you'll learn a lot from his experiences.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm Gary Klein. So currently I work for GM in what's known as a program engineering manager. What does that mean? I'm basically one step down from the chief engineer. So I'm on the full vehicle side of things, currently responsible for the Cadillac XT5. But I'd be the one pretty much directing all the traffic on from an engineering standpoint that goes into the vehicle, right? So changes, any problems that come up, development, regulations, all that. At the end of the day, I'm kind of the one conducting the orchestra, if you will, for all the different engineers and different system level teams that work on the vehicle. However, it was a long time ago, let's face it, I'll admit it. I was a student here. So I did graduate from Oakland with a Bachelor of Science, Mechanical Engineering. I was part of the Formula SAE team here, which that I can't speak enough about. It's great experience for me. That's actually how I got to GM. I was the first one to drive an OU Formula SAE car on the track during competition. We made it half a lap of one lap in the endurance event before we broke. So great triumph, followed by huge disappointment. But the team's grown, and I understand it sounds like they've had some really good years. So that's good to hear. But I actually ended up getting recruited into GM as an internship right out of the Formula SAE event. So it was really good. I was really lucky, I'll say, but that was my foot in the door. Interestingly enough, after 2 internships with GM, I didn't hire in. I actually decided to go into industry for a bit because I wanted to see what was out there. And I'll actually explain there's a good opportunity to do that now without having to do it the sort of manual way that I did it. But I worked in the supply base for a while. Fell into really the suspension area. That was kind of my passion. I did chassis and Formula SAE, and so I specialized in suspension and worked with a couple suppliers and got to see sort of the birth of OEMs. Everyone from GM, which I knew, to working with Porsche, to Nissan, to PSA, and you name it, pretty much everything in between. But then came full circle back to GM, which was where my heart was, and ended up coming in, working on what we call the Alpha architecture, what now is known as the Cadillac CT4, CT5, but came out as the ATS, CTS back in 13. So I was a suspension engineer, quickly moved into a tech expert role, as tech expert for dampers. We're familiar with GM products, the Multimatic shocks that are on the Gen 5 Z28. That was my contribution to that program. And then because that worked out so well, the performance variant group that does all the V series and all the cool kind of in-house tuner stuff brought me over, and I was the chassis lead engineer for the ZR2 Colorado. Also with the Multimatic shocks, hey, why do something new when you already have something in your bag of tricks? Just adapt it for what they're telling you to work on. But that was my transformation from always being a track guy, performance car guy. I did autocross, I did road race. Suddenly now I'm doing off-road trucks. Last suspension I designed was the OU Formula SAE car. Now here it is, go do it. We don't know how to do this. You're the guy. So got to, pretty much invent all the metrics. We developed our own test track out at the Yuma Proving Grounds called the Saguaro Trail. And then I got to launch the truck, got to be part of the launch in LA, talking to all the media, talking about the technology, talking about, you know, how the development of the vehicle came about. And that kind of earned me a spot coming back into the system management side. I then was the technical expert for all of suspension in GM. Then they moved me over to being the manager for all of our truck-based architectures, and then found myself full circle doing full vehicle now. And in this day and age, if you read the news, it's not about suspension and nuts and bolts and hardware. It's about, we don't have enough microchips. How do we build vehicles? And so now most of the discussions I have are around something I know almost nothing about. But that's one of the nice things about GM is you constantly find a way to challenge yourself, learn new things, and they really invest in the people. And if you show you're competent, yeah, you might not have that skill, but you've shown you can learn, they'll give you the opportunity. So I'm learning a lot about a field that has really been, in my terms, I would just describe as magic. Yes, I've used the infotainment in the dash, but you know, I don't know, there was no one's behind it that made it work or something. Now, roll up the sleeves, and I'm right in the middle of it with all the teams trying to figure out how do we keep building vehicles and doing what we need to do.
So yesterday when we were talking, I was telling you a little bit of this story. The point of connections really stood out to me because he got his internship because of Formula SAE, and he connected with GM at that. And then when he was working at a supplier, he connected with the customer, and that led to his job at GM. So
yeah, absolutely. I forgot to mention that you're spot on with the connections, because I was actually the supplier engineer for the predecessor to the Alpha, the original CTS and CTSV. And when I wanted to come back to GM, I applied for a job just through the careers.gm.com website, like you guys may be familiar with. And it was just for a suspension engineer, and it wasn't descriptive of what program. And it turned out to be for the group, for that Sigma, and now transforming the Alpha architecture. And I show up at the Renson for an interview, and you know, I'm sitting there, I got straightening my tie, and I got my resume in front of me. All of a sudden I hear, "How you doing, buddy?" And I look, and it's Craig, the engineer I used to interface with, is now the manager, and saw my name and said, "Yeah, I want to bring him in for an interview," and that's how I got hired back in.
And those connections happen all the time. So just remember that as you go through your careers. It's important to keep those connections strong. So we are going to talk a little bit today about the video interviewing process to get into GM. GM's process is a little unique, and we are seeing more companies adapt to some type of process like this. So this just kind of goes over it. The first step is you apply. The next step is you have to do a HireVue assessment, which is what we're going to talk a little bit about today. If you get past the HireVue assessment, which is reviewed by the hiring manager and the recruiter for that position, then you'll be brought in for an interview. And then hopefully that interview leads to an offer. But the first step is you have to get past that HireVue process. So that's what we really wanted to talk a little bit about today. And there's a video that I think does a nice job explaining it. So this is going to take us to, I will send this website out to you guys. It has a lot of really great information. I'll show you some of it later. But if we scroll down, there is a little video that I think is really very helpful.
Many companies are adapting to virtual interviewing to make the hiring experience more convenient for busy students. Your college or university may have an option for you to take practice interviews through the Career Center. A HireVue is a way to get to know you better and understand your skills beyond your resume. HireVue allows you to interview anytime and from anywhere. All you need is a mobile device or a computer with a camera and a microphone. Here's what you can expect when taking a HireVue. You'll be offered practice questions prior to starting the official interview. They're not shared with the company, and you can practice as often as you like. You'll get used to speaking to the camera. It's a lot like video calling your friends and family. If watching yourself on camera feels distracting, there is an option to hide your video so you can focus. During your HireVue, you'll be asked to respond to a series of job-related questions. Like any job interview, some upfront research about the position and company is always a good idea. Spend some time thinking about how your skills align with the job requirements. And if it's helpful, take some notes to use during the interview. To keep things fair, you will answer the same questions as every candidate applying for the job. This helps reduce unconscious bias that naturally occurs within a traditional interview. You'll have approximately 30 seconds to prepare and up to 3 minutes to respond to each question. Many companies will even allow you to re-record your answers. You can interview from anywhere, so find the place where you think you'll be the most comfortable and free from distractions. Your potential employer will be able to see and hear what's going on around you, so just keep that in mind. What should you wear for your HireVue? Just wear the same clothes you'd wear to any in-person interview. Before you start, check the invite for an estimate of how long it will take to complete. We recommend setting aside a bit more time, just to stay on the safe side. And don't worry, if you have to take a break between questions, you can always come back to where you left off. Be sure to check your lighting. A good rule to follow is to avoid dark or dimly lit rooms, and make sure your lighting is in front of you. Natural light from a window is typically your best bet. During your HireVue, don't stress about making eye contact with the camera. Just speak and focus like you would in a normal conversation. Finally, your HireVue might include a series of games. Think of these as brain teasers or fun quizzes. Different games have different rules, so read the instructions closely to be prepared. When you begin answering questions or playing games, you'll see a countdown starting at 3. When the countdown reaches 0, start speaking or playing. That's it. After you complete your HireVue, your results are automatically sent to the recruiter or hiring manager, who will follow up with next steps. They may reach out through email, call, or text you directly. We want you to have fun with your HireVue experience. Just remember to relax and let your skills and personality shine.
Okay, so she makes it sound super easy. And Gary also had some tips
Yeah.
that we'll get to in a second. I think his tips are a little bit more personalized for GM too. So a little bit, she talked about this, but first you'll get an e-bite. You only get 48 hours. I think they say it's recommended to complete the HireVue within 48 hours. So my suggestion is if you're applying to GM, be prepared for the HireVue before you apply so that you are ready to do that HireVue as soon as you get that note. You should practice, obviously, and then you'll do the HireVue and then you submit your completed questions to GM. Oh, going the wrong way. And this is a little bit more about the HireVue on demand. And I will email this to you as well, so you don't need to take any furious notes on it. You'll get the link in your email. You'll have a passcode that you're given. You'll run all the system checks, and then you'll get to do the video. And it sounds like there's GM videos that you can watch that tell you a little bit about it as well.
Yeah, pretty much. It's interesting. The same sort of training video I've seen as well, because we actually use the HireVue process even for internal positions. So you've heard I've moved around through GM, and yep, when I apply for another position, I get to go through this internally. Bit different, but sort of the same thing. And so some good tips. Maybe I'll even start with a few, just elaborate a little bit on some of the things in the video as well. I think it's entertaining to say, dress like you would for an interview and to show people in t-shirts. So I'm not exactly sure what other companies use HireVue, but do the right thing there, right? So dress appropriately for a professional job interview. But a couple of things that I'll even say, just what I've learned going through the video process. You're absolutely right. You have 48 hours. It'll say in the email, here's your notification. You have 48 hours to complete your HireVue interview. I generally, what I do is in preparation, I'll kind of, take an evening, kind of clear my head, get some thoughts together. And I don't do the interview necessarily that evening. I like to sleep on it. And then I'll do the interview the following evening. And that still leaves you a bit of buffer if something comes up, your dog's sick or whatever, or, you never know, but at least it gives you time to kind of schedule some time for yourself, find a good spot to take the interview from. And then, hopefully you can go in with a nice focus into the interview process. The other thing as well is, so they sort of touched on in the video about, you can kind of black the screen out so you're not watching yourself. I admit, If you're anything like me, like seeing yourself on video and hearing your voice is like the worst thing ever. Like I'm sitting there, like I can see every like piece of acne I've had since I was, had puberty, and I hate the sound of my own voice, and so kind of my tip on that is don't over focus on yourself. Just kind of make sure you got good posture. There isn't something in the background that's inappropriate or distracting, and just make sure that the sound levels are good, that you're not slouching in a chair, and generally, but don't over focus on yourself. You over critique yourself, you freak yourself out. Don't get too far into that. The reality is there's not some team of like psychologists that are watching your video going, you see that twitch? I think he's probably not the right person for the job. It's not analyzed quite to that level. So don't overthink it, would be one of my tips. And then, yeah, as they mentioned, you do have an advantage with the video that you will be able to record one. If you like it, you can submit it, great, but you have a chance to scratch that one and take a second one. So think about a good strategy for that. I can tell you one of the things I do is with these interviews, it's story time, right? All the questions are going to be, tell me about a time you did this. Tell me about a time you had to lead a team. Tell me about a time you failed. What did you do, right? So you want to make sure that you've kind of thought through, I'd say 4 or 5 good examples of like, hey, this happened in my school career. This has happened in my life. This is what I learned. This is what I took away from it. These are some good points that I want someone to learn about me as I answer this question, and just kind of have those in your head, even have them written down somewhere that you can maybe reference them. Don't do it on the video, but the question will pop up. Tell me about a time, and you can be like, that one. Okay, good. And then the camera's rolling, and you can hit it. You can watch it. If you did good, great. If not, you got a second chance. And it could be, I use that example. Maybe I want to use this one. You kind of check your notes in between takes, and you got all the time you want to sort of take that second one. But the second one, it goes once you've completed it. So, that's one of the things. If you really did a decent job that first time, sure, you could take it a second time, but think about, okay, this one, I don't have a choice. That second one's going to go no matter what. So just, again, up to your own discretion, use it to your advantage, and kind of select what the right option is as you go through that. I think the other thing as well is, if you do take the second one and you make a mistake, don't dwell on it, right? Recover as best as you can, get through it. It's going to go, it doesn't matter. The big thing is don't have that take you down. Don't crash and burn on it. Just recover, move on. It's a little bit like if anyone's performed on stage, sometimes you just got to keep your head up, right? So that's one of the main things. So then really getting to what are we trying to get out of this, an employer? What are they trying to get out of this whole video, pre-screening process? I'd say number one, we're not trying to have you read your resume to us because we've already read it, right? So that's the first thing, is the first point that Laura wrote up there, get off the paper, 100%. We don't want to necessarily hear about your resume. There may be a question, they'll say, tell me why you're qualified for this job. The worst thing you do is just start reading your resume to them, right? They're trying to learn something about you that doesn't come across on paper. They're trying to see what your personality's like. Are you, very positive, very energetic? Are you outgoing? Are you a leader? Are you really shy? They're trying to get some sense of your personality. So that's the whole get off the paper. Really, really important that you don't just tell them the same thing they already know about you, right? One of the things Laura and I talked about that I'm excited, the second bullet, local. So going into an interview, one of the things they're kind of looking at, again, assessing about you is, if I hire this person, are they going to like it? Are they going to stay? Are they just going to bail? I've kind of seen us go through this because GM, we used to recruit only from certain schools, Kettering, obviously, because of the relationship there, U of M, Michigan State, Michigan Tech, Virginia Tech, Ohio State. There was always these sort of core schools we recruited from. And then, I don't know, it seems like in the last several years, we've opened it up and we've done a lot of recruiting out of state. Texas A&M is one of the big ones, Florida State. We start pulling people in from all over the place, even Puerto Rico. There's actually several people we've hired from Puerto Rico. And I've watched this experiment, and it's a good thing. It's diversified us, but the retention rate is lower than if we hired in state, because someone that's never seen snow before moves from Texas up here and goes, what's this? You can live in this. This is inhuman. And I said, I used to walk to school when I was 10 years old in this. What's the big deal? But it can be really extreme for them. They're going to be away from their families, their friends. So you guys, everyone here already has an advantage. You already live in Michigan. You know what Michigan's about. You know, you're located here. If you know your family's here, your friends, if you're rooted in Michigan, you already have one advantage over the Texas A&M and the Florida State people, right? So use it to your advantage. Make that one of the points that somehow comes across as, hey, I'm from here. I'm born and raised here. My family, we got a cottage up north. I love it. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here, right? That's an important thing for them to get out of you. Because again, you want to stand out compared to the other candidates. Third one, customize. So this one, I'll ask a bit of a question. So if you're going on 5 different interviews to 5 different jobs, should you be the exact same in all 5 of those interviews? I see someone shaking their head no. Correct. You want to interview for the job you're interviewing for, right? So if you're interviewing for a job that's in, you know, software development for chassis control, maybe that's not your background, but find a way to tailor that interview towards that experience, because again, that is the frame of reference that they are looking for, right? So kind of a brief analogy I like to use, if you know, if you got sort of 5 people standing trying to look over a 6.5 foot tall fence, you know, if you want to get them all to the same height, the same goal, which in this case would be to hire, you know, you want them to hire you, it's going to take a different height box to get those 5 different people to that level. That should be what you're thinking of in the interview. Some interviews you go on, it may be not a stretch at all. So therefore you need no box. It's going to be very easy. Others, maybe you need a 1.5 foot tall box to get them to that goal line. But at the end of the day, that's what you need to figure out is, I got this interview. It's a little bit of a stretch for me, but I got to find a way to make it relevant and go beyond maybe just the typical sort of interview to get them to the point of, yeah, even though I'm not quite there, I got them to the point where they want to hire me. Stand out. So kind of to the first point about, you know, they're trying to get what's not on the paper. That's where your personality really comes into play. Either it's your mannerisms, your high energy, your hobbies, your interests, something that maybe you didn't do in school. Maybe it's relevant, maybe it's not. Maybe you don't think it's relevant, but it is, right? Maybe you did Boy Scouts and you worked in, you know, you did summer camps or something like that. That's leadership, right? There's a leadership example. So find something about yourself that comes out and will be something that they remember. Oh yeah, the Boy Scout guy. I remember him. He was really good. I liked his personality, or you know, what have you. But find something that just makes you stand out, will make you memorable.
One of the things you mentioned yesterday is after they review these HireVues or after they interview someone, they will get together all the people that watch the video or interview the person. And those little things are really important in helping you stand out, because they'll remember you and he'll say, yeah, it's the Boy Scout person. Remember that? And it really helps everybody remember you, which is what you want to have happen so that they hire you.
Absolutely. We, you know, after we get done with the interview, of course, we huddle up and talk about you, right? So the more memorable you are, it's going to be like, yep, that person, I remember them. Yeah, they were really good. They used this example with me. Oh yeah, and we're going to talk about it. So, oh yeah, they had a different example, but yeah, it was kind of I got the same thing out of them. They're a leader, they're energetic, all these things. So stand out, really good. You know, why are you the best candidate? This is one of those things, it may sound so simple, and I've seen so many people miss this, but I've given interviews to people and I got done and went, do they even want the job? Like, they never said I wanted the job, and they never said why they were really a good candidate. It was just like, they just answered my questions. So it sounds so simple, but make it a point, be like, I'm really interested in this job. This is why I think I'm, you know, the best candidate for it. This is what interests me about it. This is why I would be a good fit. So just say it. Say, hey, I think I'm the best candidate because. If you don't, people are just going to wonder, like, oh, maybe they're just practicing their interview on me, or they threw a bunch of resumes out there and they saw what they got. So you want to convey the point of that's not why I'm here. I'm really interested in this job. This really has something for me. Show your personality. I think we kind of already covered, but it just goes back with being memorable. I've gotten done with interviews and the person was so flat. It was like talking to a robot. And yeah, when we got done afterwards and we huddled up, oh yeah, you remember that person? Oh my God, I got nothing out of that one. There was, it's, a little bit like they're looking for some kind of, is there going to be a good sort of match for this person in my group, right? You're talking about a manager who leads maybe a dozen people. They want to find out, are you a person that like easygoing, everyone likes you? Maybe a little type A, maybe you rub some people the wrong way, maybe you're a bit shy, but they're really assessing like, hey, if I hire this person, am I creating a problem in my group or are they going to be an asset, right? So again, your personality, they're really trying to look for those types of things, almost more important than maybe the technical qualifications. You're already there, you got the interview. They're now really trying to get that sense of, if I add this person to my group, are they a good fit, right? Be memorable, we talked about, and then share everything you want GM to know. So this is an important point as well. So prep is really everything when it comes to these interviews. And as I mentioned at the beginning, kind of have those 4 or 5 examples in your head and know what you would want something to get out of them. Let's say the 2 questions they asked, we got maybe 2 of the main points you want to get across, but we didn't get the third. Find a way to work that in the video interview. So they're going to tell you, hey, you get 2 questions, you get 3 questions. You're going to know when you get down to that last question, like, find a way to work this in. You don't want to necessarily force the friendship, but just find a way to get that point out there so they're learning about you, what you want them to get out of it, right? And then the nice thing is, if you do make it to the live interview, there's always a section at the end where we say, any questions, anything else you want me to know? There's your time, right? That is the perfect time to say, you know what, this didn't come up in the interview, but I think you really need to know I'm passionate about this topic and here's why, right? Or, hey, you know what, for some reason in the questions, the fact that I was captain of the swim team didn't come up because it's not a technical question, but that's where I really have gotten my leadership skills from, and I've approached that mentality, right? So look for those kind of, those little nuggets that you can get out there. And again, it just helps someone learn more about who you are.
Okay, so I thought those were really important tips that he was sharing yesterday. So I want to make sure we got those out right away. We're going to get a little bit into some details of the HireVue process and what to do. And this is the STAR interview structure. This is actually on that GM website that I showed to you guys. And he mentioned those behavioral questions. Tell me about a time. This is the format that they're looking for and the answers. So it's pretty cool. This is the strategy that we teach interviewing as well, but it's also the strategy that they're looking for their candidates to answer the questions with. So I'm not going to go too deep into this. We are doing another interview workshop next week, and we will dive more into this. But again, with those questions, I'm looking for you to identify the situation or the tasks, very specific examples, the actions that you took, again, very specific actions, and then the results that you achieved is kind of that standard format that they're looking for in those answers. Anything else that you want to add on that?
I would say with the STAR format, where 90% of the people fall down, whether they're new to the process or even internal experienced people, is bringing it home to what did you learn, right? People be like, yeah, here's the situation. We broke apart. The task was figure out how to break apart. The action was I led a team. We found this. And always focus on what you did. It's our natural tendency to be team players and say, we did this, we did that. And at the end, what did I get out of it? Well, he was part of a team that did it, but did he do anything? Did they do anything? So make sure you're like, here's what happened. The team was tasked with this. Here's what I did on that team. This was my contribution. Make sure you get that across. But then always at the end, people will get done answering it. And you can see in their head, they're celebrating like, yay, I had a good example. And they forget to say, and here's what I learned and here's how I applied it next time. Or what they'll miss saying is, maybe they haven't gotten to the point of applying it yet, but here's what I learned. Here's what I'm going to do different next time. I haven't gotten there yet, but we're going to write a best practice. I'm going to, make a mental note. I went to my director's staff meeting and I shared this lessons with the team, but always close the loop just to show that, hey, you're the type of person that learns and tries to get better. You're not just the person that gets through the moment, right?
So really they're looking for the STAR look with the learnings and the applied added on, as this slide shows.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, one of the things he mentioned was that you should really have 4 to 5 stories ready to go for your interview. This is a really great tool. It's Big Interview. Let me see. Any hands? Does anyone use Big Interview? Okay, awesome. Glad to see Kelly and Kathy have. So Big Interview is a resource that you guys have access to as a student at Oakland. And there's 3 things on here that I like. The first one is if you look at the top, there's learn. And let's say you have no idea how to answer the tell me about yourself question. And it's midnight, you can't make an appointment with Kelly and Kathy and I at midnight. You can watch a little video on how to answer that question. So that's the first thing, is there's videos on how to answer different types of questions. The second one is practice. For this is, for HireVue, it's really a great tool because it simulates that very well. There will be someone like this, and she will ask you a question, and then you can record your answer similar to HireVue and watch how you did. A little bit different in this, there's no pressure because you can practice 5 times, 6 times, nobody's gonna see it. So it's a really good tool to practice for your HireVue. And then the last one that is probably my favorite on HireVue is you can build your perfect answer. And so Gary had mentioned building out 4 or 5 stories, thinking about those examples that would be good. You can do this in a big interview, and it prompts you, okay, what do you want to call this story? What is the situation? What are the tasks and actions you completed? What were the results? Really easily, gives you examples along the way. I wish I had this when I was interviewing. It's so cool. And then you can also export it to Word. So similar to, I think Gary mentioned, you can have your list of stories sitting next to you for the HireVue, and you can print it out and have those right next to you so that it kind of jogs your memory and you can keep track of your stories. So I think it's a really, really important tool. Another thing that can be helpful in this is, Gary and I were talking yesterday, okay, so you have your HireVue, you have maybe 2 to 3 examples that you cover in that. What happens when you go to the face-to-face interview and the hiring manager already saw your HireVue? Can you use those same examples that you already used?
Yeah, and there's nothing saying you can't, right? But here's the thing. If you made it to yet the next round, what is that? I now want to know even more about you, right? So the whole goal is, all right, I read their resume. I heard them on their recorded interview, their HireVue. Now I want to see them live in person. So if you give the same example, I haven't learned anything new, right? So I would say it's in your best interest to try and find another example to use, something else to give. And you're going to know what answers you gave and think, what else should they know about me? What's another story I could tell? Maybe it's still the same thing, demonstrating leadership, but give another story. Give one that's maybe more recent, more relevant, or even just something that tells something more about your character. But try and find something where they're going to learn even more about you, because that's the whole point of each process is, I don't want to keep hearing the same thing. I already heard it. I want to know something new.
So what you could do in HireVue is go into those examples that you put in. And after the HireVue, let's say you told a story about customer service at Whole Foods. You can go into that story and maybe in the comments use this story with GM on 10/3. So then when you have your face-to-face interview scheduled, you already have notes of which stories you used. So maybe you want to do different stories the next time. So I think that can be really, really useful. You ever seen anything like this? It's super cool.
No, that would have made my job a lot easier.
Yeah, totally. Okay, the next part I wanted to talk about was choosing the time and place. And the HireVue video talked a little bit about this, but it sounds like most of these video assessments take between 20 to 30 minutes, but really setting aside some extra time just to be safe. Let's say you're doing it at home, your little sister gets off the bus at 4, you probably don't want to start it at 3:45 because she'll come bursting in and maybe mess up your video. So maybe you want to start it at 2:30 to make sure that you have plenty of time to finish up before she comes home. I thought this one was really smart too. Set the time of day based on when you feel sharpest and most alert. So I am a morning person, so I would probably do mine in the morning. Some of you might be night owls. And that's the nice thing about virtual interviewing. You can do it when it works for you. So think about when is your best time of day and then do your HireVue then. Again, find a quiet place, be mindful of your background. Like that Gary mentioned, make sure there's nothing inappropriate behind you. Definitely important. Try and have a strong internet connection. Sometimes if you can wire in for this, that helps with a stronger internet connection. Minimize those distractions and make sure that the area is well lit as possible. And 2, if you don't have a perfect spot, that's okay. Just make it the best that you can make it. If you're in your bedroom, that's cool. Make sure your bed's made. Make sure it looks clean behind you. Okay, so before the virtual interview, Gary talked about this too. Research the company and the position. Make sure you're tailoring it to that position or that company. Practice the virtual interviewing. You can practice on Big Interview, how we talked about, or you can practice in a virtual appointment with Kelly, Kathy, or myself. make sure you review the resources from the company. We'll click through a couple of slides. GM gives you tons of information. So if GM is giving you that information, they expect you to be prepared. They're telling you exactly what you want to do. So make sure that you review that information.
Yep. I think one of the other things too, when you look at a posting for a position, I admit, I find them a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
But the key is look for what is boilerplate versus what's unique to that position. Because everyone's going to put must have computer skills, right? Must have interpersonal skills. Those are good, but then really get down into what maybe is tailored to the job and not just the boilerplate standard. This is what I need to hire someone. They're all going to say you must have a pulse, right? So get beyond that, and kind of you'll if you look at enough of them, which if you're close to graduating, you probably looked at quite a few job postings. You'll start to see like, oh yeah, this is your standard boilerplate stuff, DFEMA stuff, all that. But then what's kind of unique to this job? Oh, it's about steering. It's looking for someone that has a mechatronics background. Oh, and then that'll help start to tailor your examples and your interview towards that job.
Very good. So another thing, test your technology. So making sure your video works, your microphone works. You can do that maybe on a Zoom call or a handshake appointment with us, make sure it all works. And again, dress professionally. I didn't notice the t-shirt in the HireVue, but t-shirt probably not the way to go. During the virtual interview, don't panic if your technology fails. I personally experienced this in my interview with Oakland as we were virtual and my internet went out. So don't panic. Take deep breaths. Maybe there's a phone number you can call or try different things to try and make it work, but don't panic. We do recommend trying to talk into the camera. I know in the HireVue video they said don't worry about it, but if you can try and make eye contact as best you can, I think that does help strengthen your video. Try and monitor your body language. Make sure that you're not like totally crazy with your hands. With the video, I think it is a little bit easier, but for this one, really sitting up straight makes a big difference. Even in student appointments, when I'm doing mock interviews virtually, you can see such a big difference. As soon as I sit up straight, the confidence just goes through the roof versus slouching. So be careful of that. Try and speak strongly and clearly because the video might not pick you up. So try and enunciate as much as you can. Be yourself. I think Gary touched on that a lot. You want to be unique. You want them to remember you. I thought this was interesting. If you lose the connection, let's say it drops in the middle of your HireVue, if you go back to that link from your email, it'll pick up right where you left off. So I thought that was helpful to know too. Okay, a little bit more about body language. Again, that posture is really important. Making that eye contact. Smiling, I think smiling is so important. In a HireVue, you'll actually be able to smile, hopefully make sure you do it somewhere where you don't have to wear a mask ideally. And you can smile, I think that makes a big difference. Okay, I wanted to touch on the game-based assessments because as I mentioned in the HireVue, there are some game-based assessments with the GM assessment. And this is some tips from HireVue's website. So you'll be told if they're assessing your cognitive ability or your emotional intelligence. So it'll tell you which game, what's being assessed. So I think that's kind of helpful to know going into it. It gives you examples of different types of things that will be tested. And then they don't give you an opportunity to practice on HireVue's website. I tried to find something, I couldn't, but they give you instructions and then the first levels are easy to try and get you used to the format and how it works. So I guess the idea is it's kind of building up your skill set. And they recommend the best preparation is just being well rested so that you're sharp for these tests. There's not much you can do besides that. And I don't know, in the video, they look like they were having a lot of fun with them. So they're probably pretty fun, right? And Gary, it sounds like as an internal employee, you didn't have to do these.
Yeah, it's that was news to me. Rather, it's not required for the internals, or it could just be once you get to a certain level, they figure you demonstrate technical competency. If you're already in the company for a number of years. But it kind of looks like those mind sharpening quizzes that you see on TV. So yeah, enjoy that.
So again, pick the time of day that you're most alert. That's what's really important for this. Okay, a little bit about what to wear. Again, that professional, at least from the waist up, is really important for these video assessments. Even though it is video, it doesn't mean you can be on your jammies at home. So we still need to be professional. Now, this is where on that website where I had the HireVue, there is this interview preparation toolkit, and it's a PDF file. And this is where I was talking about, has tons of information specific to GM. And other companies might have tools like this too. So I would really encourage you to look at the websites, look at any information. I know that GM emails this out to you when you have an interview. So check it out, because if they're sharing it with you, they expect you to look at it and be familiar with what's in there, and you can start tailoring your answers. So you can see in there, I can't see it because it's really small, but the GM behaviors, that's what they're looking for in their employees. So try and tailor your answers so that maybe you're highlighting some of these, innovation or being inclusive or being futuristic. Those are things they're looking for. So if your examples can hit on some of those items, that might stick out to the hiring managers. So if a company is providing you with resources, check them out. This is the interview process. So again, they're telling you exactly what to expect. So I would check out that information. They even give you some interview tips. So because they're giving you these tips, they want you to look at them. They want you to follow them. So I'll give you this link so that you'll have it and be ready for those. And more interview tips that they're giving you. Okay, so we've already talked about practice. That really is important with interviewing. It's a skill. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And so practicing really, really helps. We have resources on Handshake. I printed copies back out there and I'll email them to you as well. We have mock interview appointments. We can do those face-to-face if you're getting ready for a face-to-face interview, or we can do them virtually too. And those are good practice for a virtual interview. We didn't touch on this. Are you guys doing, if they make it past HireVue, are they doing face-to-face or virtual interviews?
It's a live video interview is what we're doing. Yep, exactly. So it's, unfortunately you don't get to, go there and sit face-to-face right now, but the video interview, it still works pretty well because, it's live. They can still see your gestures. It's something, you respond to real time. And one of the things they're obviously getting from you in that forum is they're seeing how well you think on your toes as well, right? There is no second take.
Mm-hmm.
So you just got to be ready. And that's where, again, the more you prepare, like anything, the less it's going to shock you and you're going to go, and you try to, so the more you've got those in your head, the sharper you're going to be. And maybe a quick tip when you are in the live interview, I'm kind of tipping my hand a little bit, but I always repeat the question they ask me back to that. On the surface, it's like, yes, I'm just making sure I understand the question. In my mind, which example? Where am I going? And it just buys you a little bit of time so you can get, so tell me about a time you were a leader. A time I was a leader was, I was at, this camp for youth and so it just comes off much more natural, much more smooth, looks really good, a lot less like you're searching and sitting there going, I don't know. So a little bit of that smoothness, a little bit of that charisma can go a long way.
That's a really good tip. So since they're doing interviews virtually, setting up a virtual interview appointment with us would be helpful because it's simulating what the real life would be with GM. We talked about big interview, and HireVue has some really interesting articles and Q&A if you want to try and sharpen up on that before your HireVue. Now we have about 15 minutes left for questions, and I think that Gary will give great answers. So if you have any questions for him. Oh my goodness, no? Yes.
I guess the question would be like, when should we complete like the HireVue interviews?
When should you?
Yeah, because don't you usually have like a time limit?
Yeah, so it's you have 48 hours from when you get your initial email that you should be completing it. What I generally do is I don't necessarily do it right away, but I start to prepare and I'll kind of think through what are my examples, what I want to give, and I'll kind of sleep on them for a night. And then the next day I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to do this tomorrow. When in the day is the best time for me to do this? When am I not rushing from class or getting home from my job? When is there not going to be a bunch of noise? When am I going to be at my best? And I'll basically do, and you just have a link. You just go in and you click and you say, yep, I want to do my HireVue interview, and off you go. But also not good to leave it to the last minute either. Leave yourself a little time in case something goes sideways. But
Yeah.
I would say it's good. You definitely want to start to prepare as soon as possible. But I tend to think it's always good to kind of sleep on it for a night because you're going to come up with those examples and you can say, yeah, this looks good. You sleep on it, you look at the next day and go, I forgot this. And you're like, wow, okay, I'm not going to use that example. I'm going to use this one now. So that's my advice on the HireVue interviews.
Gotcha.
Another thing about waiting till the last minute, I would definitely reiterate that, because I don't know about you guys, but I keep losing power this year. And when my power goes out, I'm losing my internet too. And so I would have been in big trouble if I had waited till the last minute a couple of times this year, because I wouldn't have had internet at home. So I wouldn't wait till the last minute.
You shared the suggestion that students, try to customize their interests and talk about that in the interview. I don't know if you guys saw the email that I sent out. General Motors is offering, it's a long title, so I'm going to read it. Autonomous electrification and software learning sessions. You got that in your email. You can sign up for these like mini classes on those topics. There's one on the 5th of October, the 7th, the 12th, the 14th, the 19th, the 21st. And not only are you going to get great information, but you're going to understand a little bit more about what's important to the company. You might get some ideas of what could you talk about in an interview if you attended one of these learning sessions. You might be able to share with them what you've already learned about the company from being part of that. And they might appreciate too that you took the time to learn about them.
That's really
You
good.
guys need me to send that out again? Does that sound familiar? I know you get a lot of email.
I can include it in my follow-up
Okay.
emails to the attendees. Yeah, thank you.
Maybe one thing I would just add on the interviewing thing, that's really good that you offer practice interviews here. Take advantage of that. The other thing I would say is, you know what, even get with a friend or a relative and be like, hey, I want to practice my interview on you just as a really relaxed level and see what comes out of it. I can tell you for internal interviews, when I was a manager, I told all my employees, I'm like, hey, if you want a job, you're supposed to ask the manager. I said, I'm not going to say no, right? So, we're not that kind of company. It's not our culture to block anyone. It's like, it would suck to lose you, but we want you to better yourself. This is your interest. Go, right? Come talk to me because you know what? Let's talk about practicing for your interview because even a lot of people internally, maybe they've been in the same job for a while, haven't been through the new format or they're a bit rusty. Say, let's talk about it and let's schedule some time on my calendar. We're going to do a practice interview. And I would tune them up. And it was amazing because I have one employee where he was applying for another position under the same director. So I'm in my director staff meeting. I'm like, ooh, this is coming up. Yeah, Shri had an interest in it. And it's funny, I'd hear the dialogue like, he's kind of introverted and I don't know that he's really going to be a good fit. He's got good technical background, but maybe not the right personality. And sure enough, he came to me and said, I'm interested. I go, let's set up a practice interview. I said, here's what we're going to work on. And tuned him up. And then I get the feedback of my director staff, like, he really surprised me. He was so outgoing. He gave great answers. He got the job.
You got lucky.
So that's something that you guys may be able to do if you have an internship. Maybe if you have an awesome manager like that, that's a really great opportunity to practice.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things that would go into that, if it's the same company but keep that in mind, or colleagues in a company.
So depending on the position that we apply to, we might get a coding challenge.
Yeah.
Or the HireVue.
Okay.
Is that going to be part of that math challenge thing, or are they going to be separate?
Honestly, I can't speak to that. I don't know enough about how that part of it works.
I can follow up with you. I am not sure, but I will follow up.
Okay.
Unless Kelly or Kathy, do you guys know about
I
that?
think it might be separate, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
Related to the live interview, when they get through HireVue and they get to the live video interview, what do you recommend if they're asked a question and they can't think of an answer? What should they do then?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, if you freeze up, I mean, that can sink an interview, to be honest, right? Not to put more pressure on the situation, but I know I've had that happen to me as I'm interviewing someone and they totally froze. At the end of the day, you know what? They're pulling for you as well because they don't want to pass up a good employee just because they just couldn't come up with one on the spot because you asked the question that they just didn't think they needed to be prepared to answer, right? I think you'll find the person giving the interview will probably prod you a bit. So the best thing you can do, I would say, is if you can't think of an answer and you freeze up, just take a minute, take a breath, calm down. And that time they may even prod you. Maybe they'll jog your memory a bit or just try and get yourself off center. Sometimes even just start talking a little bit. If you're not quite sure where it's going, it may at least start to develop, but definitely give an answer. Don't just go, I don't know. I don't have an example. You don't want to do that. So try and turn that negative into a positive, because they're gonna see like, oh, they weren't ready for that. What do they do? Recover as best you can. And they'll be like, you know what? They turned that one around. They didn't have it, but they started thinking through it. They just didn't sit on center, which this will happen to you in the engineering world. They want to see that someone can start themselves moving rather than just like, I don't know what to do. Someone's got to push me off center because I just don't know what to do. So you have just maybe turned a negative into a strong positive. Yeah, I'm thinking around this, and then you start talking like, oh yeah, I was actually a good example of where I led a team, and we did, and you'd be surprised. You just get a few words out, a couple sentences, and something will start to roll off, and then just start to work that answer into fit the example as best you can. But like you said, don't beat yourself up, don't freeze, just kind of like, all right, threw me off. I wasn't ready for it. I just got to start moving, and you'd be surprised how well you can recover if you do that.
I recall because I was a recruiter as well, and there would be an occasion when that would happen. And the person would talk about how they would handle it if they were in that situation, if they had never been before. Would that be okay?
That's a great example. So that brings up similar where I actually got asked a question that it didn't apply to me, but they asked it. And I'll even give the example because so some of you can appreciate, sometimes they really will try and put you in an awkward situation. They're not doing it to be mean or anything like that, but sometimes they are trying to see what is the person going to do, right? And they're looking for that response. So the question I got when I was being interviewed was, tell me about a time you told something that you knew wasn't the truth. I'm sitting there going, talk about putting me in the penalty box. So I didn't think I needed to answer that one, but you know what I said? I said, well, here's the problem I have with that question. I don't deliberately tell lies, but maybe I told something that I later learned wasn't the truth. I had to go back and call that person and correct it. I would call them up and say, you know what? I gave this answer in a meeting. I'm very sorry. I found my notes on it and I realized I remembered it wrong. Here's the right answer. Did you do anything? Did you react to that already? If so, we got to find a way to recover. If not, I'm sorry I wasted your time, but here's the right answer. And that's how I turned that question around. And the person giving the interview called me up afterwards and said, you were the best one on that, because you'd believe how many people, some of them actually said, yeah, one time I was really dishonest and just spilled their guts about it. So, and he goes, honestly, that's why I asked the question. I want to know, am I getting a person that's deliberately going to be lying to me on a regular basis? So I can appreciate it. But when I was in the position, I'm like, why did he ask me this? This is horrible. And he admitted, he laughed about it afterwards. He goes, you'd be surprised. I had someone tell me they literally were lying to people. So guess what? They didn't get the position. So that's a good question. Yeah.
Okay, maybe one final question. Anyone have one more question? Okay, if not, well, thank you, Gary, for your time. I think you shared some
Absolutely.
really great information.
Sure thing. And I'd say, one last thing, just to reinforce to everyone, if you get to the point where you're giving the interview, whether it's the HireVue or the live one, stay positive. At the end of the day, that's the thing that'll pull you through it. Stay positive. If you flub an answer, if you stutter or whatever, stay positive. Don't beat yourself up. That'll get you through it.
So picture Gary in your head saying, stay positive, stay positive. Okay,